Hi guys, and welcome to Carol's Universe Tarot Readings from the Heart. So today's reading is for the zodiac sign of Libra, and this is for the month February 2015. So this is your general monthly reading, Libra. So Libra, your cards were very interesting because I suppose they was kind of telling me several things, but I think the main thing is with February is about some of you guys making a decision. You want to keep hold of something, but there's something that is presenting some form of a challenge to your stability and holding on to something. That's the general gist I was getting from it, okay? In the first position, we've got the first two cards that came up for you guys were the Ten of Cups and the Seven of Wands. Now, the Ten of Cups usually talks about a very sort of stable, happy home life. That's the primary focus of this card, okay? There's kind of like a real sense of security going on within the home life, okay? So your emotions within the home life are quite stable. There's quite there's a happy scene going on here with this Ten of Cups, okay? I hope you can see that card, guys. However, we do have the Seven of Wands, and the Seven of Wands is all about kind of having your ideas and your beliefs challenged. So you're kind of meeting some kind of opposition there. And I just thought that with these two cards, even though there is a happy home life here, and even though there is some form of security going on here, there is really kind of some opposition perhaps to something maybe some of you guys want to do, something that you believe in, something that you want to go forward with. As we know, the Wand suit can denote things like your career and work and really your actions and your ideas and your beliefs and that type of thing. So I think that even though into February we have, and even perhaps going on from now for some of you guys, we have a situation where, you know, there is some form of stability. You have some form of, or what you believed was some form of stable foundation going on there. There is some opposition to this within the home for some of you guys in February. And I think it's potentially something to do with your own ideas, or perhaps something that you want to do, or something, you know, a particular direction that you go in. And perhaps, you know, if any of you guys are married, it could be a case of that, or you're partnered up, it could be a case of that your partner doesn't want you to do a certain thing. You know, they kind of are opposing that idea. We then had the Eight of Pentacles and the Tower card. Now this kind of backed this idea up to me even further, because the Eight of Pentacles is all about kind of being an apprentice. So it's more about sort of learning new skills. Sometimes you can be going into a new job where you become an apprentice and you're having to learn new things about that job. This card can also denote things like maybe going into education again, you know, an educational institute, learning stuff. And it can even be a card of sort of learning skills based on things that you already know. So maybe, you know, within work, going into another sort of direction within the workplace, still staying in your particular workplace, but sort of just training up for something else within there. So I certainly think it's a direction that some of you guys want to take, that there's some opposition to going on here. This is what I'm feeling. And I think that for some of you guys it's going to be causing some sort of inner turmoil, because the Tower card would usually talk about kind of unexpected changes coming in, things that you didn't expect. So it's things that are fated, do you see what I mean? Things that are kind of coming in from the universe that kind of dispel this perhaps myth of something that was once stable. If you look at this card, there's a crown on top of that building there, and there it looks like a prince and a princess are falling out of this building, okay? It looks unexpected. So it looks like they were kind of in this really solid kind of secure environment, and then suddenly something's happened that takes them out of something. So usually it denotes maybe being in a secure environment, or something that you thought was secure, and then suddenly something happens to kind of make you realise that that security was not as secure, if you see what I mean, as you thought it was. So I think that looking at these two cards, we have the secure environment going on here within the Ten of Cups, but there's some opposition to it. And I think it's in a direction that some of you guys potentially want to take. You know, it could be, you know, going to a new job. It could be making your money in something else. It could be perhaps going into education again, or learning, or something like that. but somebody doesn't potentially want you to do that. There are opposing ideas to that. And hence we have the Tower here, where you're feeling an inner turmoil about that, where there's some sort of breakdown in that stability into something that maybe you felt that somebody would support you in something, you know, and now you're feeling that they're not supporting you in the way that you thought that they should. And that's kind of broken down your trust. Maybe the Tower card is all about trust. It's all about having your trust broken down, and maybe you're waking up to the fact that, you know, what you once thought was stable is actually not as stable as you thought it was. And then even to back this up to me is the Hierophant. Not so much the Three of Pentacles. The Hierophant is sort of a twofold card, really. It's, on the one hand, it talks about receiving counsel from someone who's wise, someone who's potentially older, someone who's kind of, you know, that you'd go to for advice. It could, you know, represent maybe a clergyman or your church pastor, or, you know, just someone that you would seek advice from and, you know, getting some form of guidance from them. This card can also represent kind of convention, you know, convention. So having to adhere to something that is quite conventional, having to adhere to maybe some sort of tradition, you know, the way things have always been done, and having to kind of fit into that and not kind of opposing that, and not sort of saying, you know, going a different way, but kind of staying within some form of regimented rules. So when I looked at these cards together and I looked at the happy home life of the Ten of Cups, but there being some opposition potentially to that happiness going on. If it's not home life, then it's some form of environment that you're in, or people that you were around that you thought you were stable around, and then seeing that there's some sort of opposition to something that you want to do, potentially with the Eight of Pentacles. And potentially for some of you guys, there being a breakdown in that stability, either through your own inner turmoil about it, your own kind of feeling confused and feeling kind of like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. And, you know, the Tower card is often about kind of waking up to stuff, you know. Something gives you a jolt, the Tower suddenly crumbles, and it kind of gives you a jolt and it wakes you up to the realisation and the truth of something. So seeing the truth in a particular situation, a truth that you never saw before. So having your eyes opened. And I think with the Hierophant, this is saying that whatever this is that's broken down, whether that's the trust within you, whether that's, you know, the breaking down of a situation or an environment that you're currently in. I think that for some of you guys, it's the breaking down of this Hierophant, the breaking down of this tradition, this kind of static rule that says that you have to do something or you should do it because this is the way it's done. On the other hand, it could be you guys seeking counsel through this situation from something, you know, seeking some advice. But on the other hand, it could be that you're feeling that you're kind of, even though this isn't the Eight of Swords, you know, where you're trapped, it's convention. And when we don't want to be kind of bound by rules and what people say and, you know, the way that things should be, when we don't want to be bound by that kind of ideology, that is a trap in itself. So I certainly think that for some of you guys, it's a case of that there is a breaking down of this convention, or you want this convention to break down. You don't want to be a part of something that tells you that you have to do something, or someone that tells you that you have to do something. The Three of Pentacles really is all a card about planning, okay? And I certainly think that when I look at this card and this card together, the Eight of Pentacles and the Three of Pentacles, these two cards kind of walk hand in hand for me, because it's kind of skilling up on something. It's taking a different path with something. But whenever we're taking a different path with something, planning always has to come into it. So to me, this represented that you're still going to be going ahead with your plans, whatever these plans are that there are some form of opposition to, guys. That there'll still be some kind of like, well, no, I'm still, you know, I'm still going to go for this. Okay, because this card also represents teamwork. So maybe with this Hierophant card, if any of you guys are seeking counsel, if this situation resonates with any of you guys, maybe with the Hierophant and the planning, it's seeking wise counsel and it's seeking support. And you're getting support with the Three of Pentacles, you know. It's teamwork, it's trying to achieve something, it's working with other people or somebody else. Maybe somebody else is supporting you in these plans. If you look at this card, there are two people together and they're showing someone their plans of how they want something to be. This is what I always get from this card. So it could be that maybe you're working in a team with someone else, or somebody else is supporting you through the Hierophant to, you know, achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve, to go forth in whatever it is that you're going forward to. Or it simply could just be a fact of that, not a fact, but because everybody's got a different story with these cards, but it could simply be a case of that there is a breaking down of convention, and that you are kind of like, well, no, I don't want to stay in that mould, I don't want to stay in that thing you told me to stay in. I'm going to be going ahead with my plans, and you carry on with your planning. And the final two cards are the Four of Pentacles and the Lovers. Now the Four of Pentacles is a card that is, again, sort of twofold. There's so many meanings with some of these cards, but this card, the Four of Pentacles, can denote being really happy with what you've achieved, kind of like being really proud that you know, of your achievements and how far you've come. You know, it's a card all about, it can be a card all about kind of, you know, saying, look what I've done, look how I've done this for myself, look what I've achieved, look what I've gained. So for some of you guys, it might be a case of that through breaking through that convention that you so, you know, through coming through this realisation that something wasn't stable, and potentially for some of you guys having or feeling of that someone's opposing you on something that you want to go forward with, and kind of having to break out of something, or this card doesn't so much talk about walking away from something, but it does, these cards do talk about kind of having your eyes open to something and wanting to kind of say, no, I'm not doing it that way, I'm doing it this way. I'm not going to do it this way because you tell me that I have to do it this way. I'm going to do it this way, I'm going to carry on with my plans. And it could simply be that you're feeling quite happy with that decision. You're feeling quite happy that you've, you know, decided to move along with your plans, and you're feeling quite proud of yourself in that. On the other hand, the Four of Pentacles is all a card about holding on to stuff, so fear of losing stuff. So it could be that because some of you guys have had your eyes open to a situation that you thought was stable, that you thought that somebody potentially that you could rely on is opposing what you're saying or what you want to do. But just, you know, and that realisation with the Tower, and having to kind of like break free of the Hierophant and still go ahead with your plans with the Three of Pentacles. There could still be within some of you guys that kind of toing and froing, you know, where you're thinking to yourself, you know, I still want to go ahead with my plans, but I still want to hold on to what I've got. You know, I don't want to lose that friendship, or I don't want to lose that relationship, or I don't want to lose that thing that I still believe in. You know, but I'm afraid of losing it. And I think that would be where the Lovers card comes in, because the Lovers card is essentially a card about choices as well as love coming in. So it could be that for some of you guys that you have to make a choice. So you're thinking, what path would, you know, what path is my future going to take here? Do I stay with the tried and tested? I'm afraid of losing it, but do I stay with it, or do I go onto a path that's, you know, going to be a lot more enriching for me, a path that is more true to who I am? So I think potentially with these two cards of Four of Pentacles, to my mind, it's that you're in two minds about this, Libra. You know, potentially for some of you guys, you're in two minds about holding on. You know, you're fearing something, you're fearing losing something, and there's a choice to be made. Do I lose it, or do I stick with it? Do I stick with my plans, or do I, you know, do I keep in with what somebody else is telling me that I have to do? So, all in all, guys, I think that's a really interesting reading, Really interesting. I mean, when I look at these cards, you know, it could be just interpreted in all sorts of ways, really. You know, the Ten of Cups could be somebody wanting to make something more permanent with you, for example, a love relationship, but you're in two minds about it with the Seven of Wands, and there's a little bit of opposition going on there because you're thinking one way about it and the person's thinking the other. And with the Eight of Pentacles, the person potentially could be telling you, you know, let's try this. It's new to us. It's, you know, we're both kind of new to this idea of marriage. But potentially with the Tower card, there's a realisation with you guys that, do I really want to go there? The Hierophant could represent the church. Okay. The Three of Pentacles could be you and your person making plans to get married, but with the Four of Pentacles, you're wondering whether you still want to hold on to the way that things are, or do I marry this person with the Three of Pentacles? Do we make our plans for a wedding, you know? And then the Lovers card, again, choice. Do we build on this relationship by making it more permanent with marriage, or do we kind of carry on as before, or even go our separate ways? You could really kind of interpret these cards in all sorts of ways. But I think certainly at the basis, the central theme of these cards to me, Libra, for the month of February, for some of you guys, is potentially that there is realisation going on with some of you guys about a situation that you thought was stable, was good. And then having that realisation kind of, you know, kind of throw you into some sort of inner turmoil, or turmoil within whatever that is, whether that's a relationship or a love relationship or family or a friendship or maybe a work situation. Work situation isn't so much coming through for me on these cards, to be honest with you. It might be work, but it's not so much coming through for me. What is coming through for me though is that, you know, you're going to be opening your eyes to something potentially in February. Something that you thought was stable. And potentially some of you guys want to do something. You want to go on a certain path, but there's opposition to that. Do you stay with the tried and tested, the Hierophant? Or do you go with your own plans, the Three of Pentacles? Who's supporting you through it, you know? Do you have the support there? You know? And then culminating with the Four of Pentacles and the Lovers card. Potentially for some of you guys, you're fearing losing something. So there's a choice to be made. Do I lose this? Or do I hold on to that? You know? It's a very, very interesting reading, guys. If this resonates with you, please let me know in the comments, okay? Because I found it a very, very interesting reading to do. Very, very interesting. But all will turn out well, because the Lovers card does say if there is a choice to be made for any of you guys, then the actual route, the path that you decide to take, it will lead you to success. Okay, so trust your intuition on that one, guys. I'd like to say thank you so much for joining me on this reading, Libra, and I will see you very, very soon.